Okay. So did a lot of these young ladies come on to you?
There was a few.
There
Yes,
were
sir.
a few? I see. Okay.
Business from pleasure. So kind of,
That's pretty good. Separate business from pleasure. Uh,
Yep, you heard that right. Obviously, this Chuck E. Cheese manager is just the real prince. The girls just can't help themselves from throwing themselves onto them. I think that Chucky Tillis, the preacher, was finding similar humor in it. I think. Anyways, we'll jump into the hearing and I'll unpack the insanity of it at the end.
Mr. Alex Schexnayder, you're classified as a first felony offender. You're currently serving a 3-year sentence. You were sentenced in St. Tammany on January 19, 2022, carnal knowledge of a juvenile. Your parole eligibility date has passed. It was April 16, 2024. You're not eligible to earn good time, and your full term date is January 16, 2025. Is all that information correct?
yes, ma'am.
Would you answer Mr. Tillis's questions, please?
Good morning. How are you?
Good morning. I'm doing pretty good.
All right. I've read your case. I've gone through it. How long did you work at Chuck E.
Chuck E. Cheese. Yeah.
Yes.
I worked there for like 3 years as a manager.
as a manager?
Yes, sir.
And tell me your side of the story. What happened?
So I was working there, and I was known as like the cool manager or whatever. So a lot of people liked to be on my shift and stuff. And there was a few girls that would flirt with me here and there, and I kind of just fed into it, really, and I really shouldn't have. And I realize that now. Always separate business from pleasure. So kind of.
That's pretty good. Separate business from pleasure. Did you realize those girls were juveniles?
So the way it was set up for where I worked at, we weren't allowed to ask them their age because they had like this thing where it was like talking about like age or some type of like age discrimination or something. So we knew that they weren't 18, but because we had to give them breaks, like certain minor breaks. So I thought she was 17 personally.
Okay. You were the manager, right?
I was one of the managers. Yes, sir.
So I read somewhere in your file that a young lady was cleaning the bathroom and you were in with her. I mean, so that wasn't a good thing to do, was it?
I realize that now, but it was a pretty regular thing. If I'm closing the store, I would put together the money and everything, make sure the money's all right. And then I would go and check on everybody, make sure everybody's doing what they need to do. I would go in there, make sure she's, everything's all right, stuff like that.
Okay. So did a lot of these young ladies come on to you?
There was a few.
There were a few? I see. Okay. What have you done with your spare time while you were incarcerated?
While I was at St. Tammany, I did pre-release and a class called Smart Money. It was really hard for me to get in a lot of good time classes because I don't earn good time. So a lot of jails didn't feel the need to put me in them. Not only that, a lot of the places I've been to, my time was I had still a lot of time left, so they wouldn't put me in some classes. But when I went to Union Parish, I was a trustee there. And then once they shipped me here, then they put me in the sex offender treatment program. I've already completed empathy and awareness, and I've completed anger management.
I have no more questions.
What have you learned from this whole experience?
I learned that life's too short and you got to realize you got to actually think before you just act on certain situations. I definitely realized what I did was wrong, and I hope for another chance.
Right. You realize that no matter what happens here today, you're going to be getting out on January.
Yes, sir.
And do you realize that you got an extremely short sentence for the crime that you did? You got to give already.
Yes,
You
sir.
realize? Yeah.
Yes, sir.
Right. If we were to release you, where you plan on living?
Lafayette, Louisiana.
With who?
My grandmother.
All the questions I have.
Mr. Johnson, can you tell us a bit about Mr. Schexnayder, please?
Yes, ma'am. He is currently in the sex offender program, set to graduate at the end of this July. I would remind the board that when you look in the system, it appears that he's only doing 2 phases of sex offender treatment, of which there are 4, but he is doing all 4 and is completing the last phase in July. The 2 classes he mentioned already, empathy and awareness and anger management, are part of the program. They're just done at this point. He is not in any substance abuse classes. We did not identify that as an issue for him, and I have no negative things to report.
Good, thank you. Appreciate it. Thank you so much. Mr. Schexnayder, at this time, we're going to hear from the DA's office, Mr. Wilson.
Once again, I'm Coach Wilson on behalf of the 22nd JCEA. Just at the beginning, I want to address this issue because it got brought out a minute ago about his knowledge or his subjective view of the age of the victim, which, as we know, in the state of Louisiana is no defense. There is no defense. He's bringing up something here about age discrimination. We're talking about having sex with someone you know is a teenager. So in other words, you can't throw up some federal age discrimination law as a reason why you can't find out how old this girl is before you had sex with her. That's on him. He was the adult in the room. He had supervision over people, girls he knew were teenagers. I don't care if they find them attractive or not, they're coming on to him or not. He's the supervisor, he's the adult. He has to act with discretion, and he did not. And I agree with you, sir, that this was a short sentence. This was very lenient. And I believe that having considered that, and if you read the victim did not show up today. However, we did receive a letter from Chuck Romero. He spoke with her mother. She's still experiencing difficulty from this situation. I don't think there is any unfairness at all for this man to serve his full term, which was short enough. That's all I have.
Thank you, sir. Thank you, Mr. Wilson. All right, Mr. Schexnayder, is there a statement you'd like to make to us before we vote?
I'm just ready to go home and see my family and be a productive member of society.
Okay, thank you, sir. I think we are ready to vote. Mr. Tillis?
My vote is to deny.
Okay, Mr. Barra?
My vote is also to deny.
Mr. Schexnayder, my vote is to deny based on the opposition we've heard today, the fact that you still have some work to do in the sex offender treatment program, and quite frankly, the proximity of your release date. So, apply yourself in the class, get all the tools you can so that you don't get in this kind of trouble again.
Yes, ma'am.
But today, your girl's been denied.
All right. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Johnson. We're going to sign off at. We'll be ready for the next one.
Okay.
Cockroach. You listen to what he says, and he just plays. He actually tells the preacher when the preacher asks, well, they were all into me. The girls were just all into me. And remember, this charge isn't just for like molestation of a juvenile, that, consensual stuff. No, this is full on sexual assault. This is him as a boss forcing himself on his underage employees. We'll go over the court documents because he initially was then he took a plea deal and then he appealed his 3-year sentence as too harsh. Wow. This isn't the first time we have seen Chuck E. Cheese come up in Louisiana with these type of cases, which I guess kind of makes sense. I mean, Chuck E. These places, it is what you'd expect, I guess. But I mean, wow. In some ways, this was a short hearing. They just said no to him, blah, blah. And it was so interesting, the Chuck E. Cheese, the irony, and Chuck E. Tillis. I can't tell if he's being sarcastic when he says, "Oh, are these girls all into you?" Anyways, it's what. So, here it is. He was charged with information of felony carnal knowledge of a juvenile. That's what he was charged with. And I guess that's part of the problem is what they bring the charge to, because let's go read through this. The defendant later withdrew his original plea and then and pled guilty as charged. He was sentenced to 3 years. And it was nice to see the DA show up, right? Really nice to see that. But in some sense, there's also a bit of, you almost wonder, is the DA showing up now because of the new governor in town? Or because how do you give a 3-year sentence and then show up saying how bad it is? And it's like, what? You can't have it both ways. But okay, maybe, who knows? There's a lot of reasons why that could have happened, and maybe we should just give the ADA credit. Now, the defendant in this case entered an unqualified guilty plea at the Boykin hearing. The parties stipulated that the factual basis contained in discovery, thus, the facts had not been developed in this case. According to the Bill of Information, the offense occurred between July 1st, 2019 and July 20th, 2019, and that the victim, GD, was 16 years old at the time of the offense. As further stated in the Bill of Information, the defendant's date of birth, and thus he was 22 years old at the time of the offense. In her impact statement read at the pre-sentencing hearing, the victim stated that the offense occurred at work. She stated that while she was on bathroom duty, the defendant repeatedly entered the bathroom and would chat for a minute or two before leaving. He kept returning to the bathroom and ultimately approached the victim, stood very close to her, pushed his forehead against her forehead, and kissed her. She stated that the defendant proceeded to put his hands on her body, and when she whimpered in displeasure, the defendant started choking her. The defendant then left the bathroom again. Can you imagine dropping your daughters off to have their their job or first job or just a summer, you're proud of them, and then you find out the store manager is going into the bathroom and doing that? GD stated that she attempted to forget what happened, but as she was cleaning the first bathroom stall, she turned around and saw the defendant standing in the bathroom with his pants undone. Can you imagine? It's like out of a scary movie. She's doing the worst part of her job, cleaning the bathroom, a gross public Chuck E. Cheese bathroom at the end of a full day, what that must look like. And not only is that nasty enough, but good for her earning an honest living, good, and then you have this creep, this monster. You turn around and it's like the lightning flashes and the thunder claps and this creepy cockroach is standing behind you with his pants undone. He shoved her head closer and eventually forced himself in her mouth. She cried, and the defendant told her to shut the F up. The defendant left the bathroom again, but he returned while GD was cleaning the handicap stall, sat on the toilet, and tugged her pants down. She stated that as she cried, the defendant grabbed her by the neck, forced her to her knees, and again she found his little roach in her mouth. The victim stated that the defendant subsequently penetrated her vaginally and anally. What the? And he got 3 years for this? The victim further stated that the defendant repeated his actions on another date before the incidents were reported. In the sole assignment of error, the defendant argues that the 3-year sentence is excessive as it is not in line with the facts and circumstances of the case. He further states that he believed that the acts were consensual and never denied his actions. The defendant noted that the victim stated that she was super happy after the incidents and noted that at sentencing, the trial court even expressed his beliefs that the intercourse was consensual. The defendant notes that the victim was super happy and noted that at sentencing, the trial court. Well, I mean, I guess if they only charge him with carnal knowledge. The Eighth Amendment to the United States Constitution, Article Section 20, Louisiana, prohibited position of excessive punishment. Although a sentence may be within statutory limits, it may violate the defendant's constitutional rights against excessive punishment. A sentence is constitutionally excessive if it is grossly disproportionate. You know, I guess we could just say we're glad the DA showed up, at least at all. Felony carnal knowledge of a juvenile occurs when a person who is 17 years of age or older has sexual intercourse with consent with a person who is 13 years of age or older, but less than 17 years of age. When the victim is not the spouse of the offender, we've read that many times. So whenever someone lies and says, "Oh no, she was 17," we always know that they're lying. At the outset, with the note, there is some indication on record that the defendant agreed to sentencing range of up to 3 years imprisonment prior to sentencing. The defendant cannot appeal or review the sentence imposed. At the sentencing hearing trial, the court listened to testimony of the defendant's sister, wherein she noted that the defendant was bullied a lot as a child. He required a GED, and that he is very sorry for the offense. The trial court acknowledged an email written by the victim after the offense, wherein she, in part, stated afterwards, "I was super happy that this guy was being sweet to me, and I trusted him with talking about my mental health." Yeah, but that's like being groomed. The trial court additionally observed that the offense to which the defendant pled guilty, felony, carnal knowledge of a juvenile, is an offense that involves consensual with an underage victim. Thus, whether or not the victim consented is not an issue in this case. The trial court further concluded that the defendant had not shown much remorse, specifically regarding the defendant's recorded interview. While the defendant cried after confessing, the trial court noted when it came to the direct questionings about the actual physical act, his demeanor was, I won't say borderline. The victim also stated in the email, "Alex and I did do stuff we weren't supposed to in the bathroom. If I'm being honest, I never planned or intended for Alex and I have that sort of relationship. It happened so suddenly, for me at least, that I was afraid to say no." Okay, so that's context, isn't it? That says a lot right there. I was afraid to say no. On braggadocio, but he didn't really necessarily seem remorseful for the acts. Finally, the trial court noted that the defendant did not directly apologize. As noted, the defendant faced a statutory maximum sentence of 10 years imprisonment. Thus, the imposed 3-year sentence is at the low end of the sentencing range. We find that the sentence is not shocking in this case. Considering the victim's impact statement and the trial court's reasons for sentencing, we find no abuse of the discretion. Thus, we find no error in the trial. Conviction, sentence affirmed. And here's something. As the trial court stated, the victim was unable to complete the reading of her statement at the pre-sentencing hearing, and it was read by her therapist and said. So you can see this greatly affected her. She showed up to the sentencing hearing. If there's any doubt about how she handled this, she showed up to the sentencing hearing and was unable to finish reading it. She was greatly affected by this. Ay. Let's just go back to how he views everything, right? And also let's remember the statement made, oh, he was a let's listen to how he views the scenario, because I think it really is, I think it is telling.
I was known as like the cool manager or whatever, so a lot of people liked to be on my shift and stuff, and I there was a few girls that would flirt with me here and there, and I kind of just fed into it, really, and I really shouldn't have, and I realize that now. Always separate business from pleasure. Um, so kind of.
That's pretty good. Separate business from pleasure. Did you realize those girls were juveniles?
So the way it was set up for where I worked at, we weren't allowed to ask them their age because they had like this thing where it was like talking about like age, some type of like age discrimination or something. So we knew that they weren't 18, but because we had to give them breaks, like certain minor breaks. So I thought she was 17 personally.
Okay. You were the manager, right?
I was one of the managers. Yes, sir.
So I read somewhere in your file that a young lady was cleaning the bathroom and you were in with her. I mean, so that wasn't a good thing to do, was it?
I realize that now, but it was a pretty regular thing. If I'm closing the store, I would put together the money and everything, make sure the money's all right. And then I would go and check on everybody, make sure everybody's doing what they need to do. I would go in there, make sure she's, everything's all right, stuff like that.
Okay. So did a lot of these young ladies come on to you?
There was a few.
There were a few. I see. Okay. What have you done with your spare time while you were incarcerated?
Seeing it a second time, I think the preacher Tillis is mocking him. I gotta give him that. I mean, he's like, oh, okay, I see. They were coming on to you, sure. And when you watch it again, you just have to remember this guy is lying. Like, I thought they were 17. Sure. Yeah, of course you did. I was always in the bathroom with them. Oh, they were coming on to me. You got to understand it. See, I'm in prison, but they were coming on to me. It's all their fault. Like, that's the mindset. That's crazy. And then the business from pleasure part. He's like, always separate business from pleasure. And Tillis laughs. That's pretty good. I mean, it has to be that he's just mocking him. It has to be. I'm gonna say it is. It takes a while to get to know these new judges, but there's no way that's like he's not laughing with him. He's laughing at him. It's like, oh yeah, business from pleasure. Like, because the context of it's crazy. It's like you're in prison for. We just read what he did, and he's still using the word separate business from pleasure. That's pretty disturbing stuff, right? I mean, that sentence should never be used in this context by his parole hearing. But anyways, I'm happy we had an appeal to read through. They often don't in these cases. So thank you, Richard, for pulling that up and bringing this case. And with that, I'll let you go. Hello, Mandalorian. So I'm going to do two things that are new today. One is I'm going to show you and talk about our very first sponsor, Rose Forever. Yes, it's a flower company, and I'm going to show you what we picked out for Mrs. Mandu. And then we're going to have a surprise guest come on to talk about the roses. So let's open this up. It comes in a box. And look at this. This is beautiful, I think. Look at these roses. But what do I know? why don't we bring in Mrs. Mandu to let us know what she thinks? Mrs. Mandu, take the stage.
Wow.
Here she
Hi,
is.
everyone.
Oh my God, isn't she
I heard
beautiful?
so much about you guys. And so when he said he wanted me to come on, I was a little hesitant, but I said, you know what? He said that you guys are amazing, a great community, and this is
plus,
beautiful.
right, if there's anything I can help encourage you on, wouldn't it be?
Wow. I'm going to smell it.
Yeah,
That's what makes it important is the smell.
Yeah,
Very fresh.
isn't it amazing?
Yeah. How do they keep that fresh from New York?
Mm.
There's gonna be real big brownie points with the kids. They're gonna see that and like think that you went out and.
Is it just brownie points with the kids, not with you?
Oh, it's brownie points for me too.
Right.
This is centerpiece quality.
This is centerpiece
Yeah.
quality, and
What do you guys think? Beautiful.
just like you, Mama Do. She's Mama Do.
I am actually Mama Do. It's not lying. But anyway, nice to meet you guys. Take care.
Thank you.
Love you.
Love you. Roses are forever, just like you, or just like our love. Isn't she something? And can you imagine? So Roses Are Forever, they gave this. Now, one thing that we should just, I think, point out here is that anyone who's willing to do a sponsorship for our channel says a lot, right? It says a lot. So if you're going to get flowers for someone, you can check out their site, support them, because I think it's just means so much that they are supporting us. Now, the way that it works, I'll put a link in the description. If you use that link, I get a little something. But I think even more important, or as important, is that it shows that we could be a good channel for this. And I think we want to support those who support our cause. They do have a beautiful selection of all different prizes. And it's quite incredible to, I think, have roses from New York delivered to your loved one with a really unique collection. Now, there's no like discount code or anything like that. I think they're saying that there's just a lot of sales on the site, so they don't do that. But there is that link, the referral link, if you want to, if you're going to buy roses or flowers anyways, and you want to support Mandu and you want to support a company that supports us, please check it out. And with that, I'll let you go.
Today we have for parole consideration, Haiming Luo, DOC number 504001, who is a first felony offender who was convicted of manslaughter on March 14, 2006, and was sentenced to serve 40 years hard labor in Lafayette Parish. Your parole eligibility date is 10/19/24. Your good time date is 10/26/37. Your full term date is May 22nd, 44. Is that information sound correct to you, Mr. Luo?
Yes, sir. That's
All
correct.
right. All right, great. Your case has been assigned to board member Mr. Tillis here, who cast the first vote and will also begin questioning now.
Good morning. Mr. Liu, how, good. How long have you been incarcerated?
20 years.
You've been inside 20 years?
Yes,
I
sir.
see you've gone through a lot of training since you've been there. So what have you accomplished since all this training has been taken by you?
I had 3 jobs. When I was in Angola, I was a clerk in hospital for 3 years. My job responsibility including paperwork, filing, Xerox, delivery, and ACA standard, including bulletin board, fire safety tools, and also I deal with supplies. I type of supply order. When supplies come in, I organize supply store and inventory. Then I came to Rayburn Correctional Center in 2009. I became a certified tutor. I was a tutor for 5 years, and I've been as a librarian for 8 years. I've been through many good time class and self-help classes, including anger management, cage your rage, I've been through pre-release, victim awareness.
That's okay. I mean, we have them here.
Yeah, and I facilitate two programs. One is called the Unconventional Fitness Class since 2019. And I facilitate Vets German class, which started in October last year.
Okay, I saw you had 4 write-ups. What were they about?
The first one was the 30W. It happened in 2010. I was a kind of itch in my groin, so I tried a couple more times, and the officer misunderstood, thinking I was masturbating, and also the lieutenant didn't like me for various reasons. He just used that opportunity to get rid of the unit. But I kind of learned a lesson from that incident. I have to be humble and be respectful. And I got 2 more write-ups, I think in 2015 or 16. One was for going through the kitchen eating twice. And I told the board, the DB board, that I was kind of hungry because I was taking antibiotics that time. And I went to eat with the unit, then I went to a pill call, then went back, and I got caught at the time. And I learned my lesson that I should also follow the rules, even taking antibiotics is not excuse to go through the line twice to eat 2 trays. I should eat something that I bought, And also I caught another write-up sometime around that about having a homemade sewn sweatshirt with hoodie. And I did have that item, and I think I argued a little too much because the officer did offer me an opportunity for extra duty instead of writing me up, and I argued with the lieutenant, so they decided to write me up. And it was a rule violation. Even a lot of times they overlook, if items is on inventory, they may overlook, but that time it happened to be a strict officer and I was wrong. And the 4th time was about 2 years ago. I was written up for forgetting to pick up laundry after laundry wash. Forgot to pick up my blue jeans and blue shirt. And I told the lieutenant that the laundry came back very late, and I had library duty that night. And when I went back to the dormitory, I forgot about it. Usually the laundry sorted out kind of like 12 o'clock or before 3 o'clock, and people have enough time to pick it up. But that day it was sorted out late. It was still in bundle. And when I went back to the dorm, I totally forgot about it. And I told the lieutenant that I was sorry for that. And he still decided to write me up. And I told him that at court, for future reference, I would have to make myself a note, even if some small thing, but it was something I definitely can do to avoid violating the rules by not paying attention to some small details. And I did learn my lesson. There are so many things I have to pay attention to in prison.
How long did you stay at Angola?
I stayed for 3 years and 6 months.
Okay, I see. What do you do now in your spare time where you are now?
Spare time, I have unconventional fitness class 2 times a week in the gym. Tuesday and a Saturday morning. And I organize each group of 8 people exercise, including calisthenics, stretching, yoga, and various other things. And besides that, if anyone, whether it's enrolled or not enrolled, or whether backlog or not, if anyone has some kind of minor ailment, I can help them in many different ways, primarily in pain relief and injury recovery, as well as long-term health benefits such as people losing weight, people can skip certain medication, like high blood pressure medication without complication. These things altogether since 2020, over 70 people have noticed health improvement through unconventional fitness class. And like I mentioned before, I facilitate a German language class. I have some homemade flashcards over here. This program is also started from scratch. I had some German learning when I was in China, and after I came to Rayburn, I was kind of bored, so I learned German for my spare time, and also right now I'm ready to start the second class. The first class was October last year to January, and I have a lot of students willing to participate this, and these two are the programs I facilitate. I start from scratch. Pretty much that's what I do. And also, in addition to unconventional fitness class, I spend almost every day exercise to keep myself fit, healthy.
I may need to enroll in one of those classes.
How many people?
I say I may need to enroll in one of those classes.
It's 8 people per group. I have a
Okay, I'm just kidding. What do you plan to do when you leave, or if you're granted parole?
First of all, I have a detainer from Homeland Security Immigration. If I get parole, I'll be deported back to China. And I think I have the file number over here. So 1 second, real quick. The case number is A79-136-682. It was decided in 2007 that I will be deported back to China where I was from, and I would like to go back to China to be with my family. And my parents are both in their 70s. They're not in good health, and my maternal grandmother is still alive, and she's in her 90s, almost 100. And some other family member died during my incarceration, but I would like to be back to China to be with the surviving members of my family. And also, I want to find a job when I go back to get income, support myself. And I would like to use what I've learned to help other people. And also,
Go ahead.
I would like to further look into my cultural heritage. When I was in Angola, I was in Asian American Cultural Society. Our club president encouraged Asians to look into our own Asian culture, and I have done some of them. which were used for unconventional fitness class, like some of the medical skills such as self-massage that can help myself and as well as help other people for pain relief, injury recovery, and some other purpose. I would like to study more of that as well as many other cultural heritage stuff.
Thank you. Thank you so much. I have no more questions.
I do. Mr. Liu, good morning.
Good morning.
I want to say, thank you for the work that you do within your prison community. I think you've done a lot of good work there. I'd like to understand a little bit more about how, you're a very intelligent man. How is it that you find yourself in prison? I mean, I know you're here, you pled guilty to manslaughter, but we'd like to know a little bit about what really happened at the University of Lafayette. You were in a dorm?
Yes, ma'am. It was in my dorm room when it happened. I had a relationship with the victim. We just kept it secret. Really, she had a boyfriend in China, but she decided to have a relationship, meet with me. We started in September or October 2003. And we had started to have sex in December 2003. And at first it was okay, but gradually, we had more problems and arguments. And finally, she decided to split up with me. And in April 2004, and we had more and more arguments because I was not realistic. And looking backward, I realized I shouldn't start a relationship because she wasn't serious in the beginning.
Well,
Yeah.
so I'm trying to figure out, you stabbed her, and is that why? What did she do to make that happen?
On that day, she came see me and said, at first it was okay. Then later on, she said a lot of things that made me upset, and she wouldn't shut up.
Okay.
And that's how it ended up too.
And she ends up dead. So, you took a lot of classes, you rattled off a big long list there for Mr. Tillis. Have you ever taken any victim awareness class?
Yes, ma'am.
And what did you learn in that class?
I remember I watched a video about victims and victim families view about crime, because crime hurt everybody, which is, in my case, it is also. I can relate two stories. One was a victim's dad. He said his son were killed in the shooting, and he said he wasn't angry, but in reality, his facial expression showed a lot of anger. He said he would like to be the killer all the way to 1 inch of death or something like that. And in my case, victim's mother wrote a letter through Dr. Wang, who's their liaison. He's a professor in UL Lafayette, and in the letter they say they would like to tear my chest open, pull my heart out, things like that. It showed a lot of anger. I was very sorry for what I have done. And another thing, victim awareness class I can relate to was also in that video, that it was a female for either for domestic violence or rape. And she said she couldn't trust people. And I can relate to, there's a friend of mine, a Dr. Wang, a different Dr. Wang, he's also a Chinese that we used to eat in school cafeteria once a week, and I used to visit him, or he used to visit me, and we play tennis together. And after crime, and he didn't come visit me, but he did stay through a different friend. Say it was hard for him to trust anybody. That's the two things I pretty much can relate to. I know that.
So, Mr. Liu, if you were able to speak to Ting's parents, what would you say to them? And just summarize it, be brief.
I apologize for everything I have done. I have gone through various jobs, various classes, programs. I'm a different person now, and I would like to do everything I can to pay back to the society. And the crime happened. There's no way I can get her back to life, and I apologize for everything I've done. And I understand their suffering. They lost their only daughter, and I'm truly sorry. I apologize for, and I feel bad for everything I've done.
All right, thank you. I don't have any other questions.
Warden Bickham, could you add any thing to it?
I think
In prison or anything?
he's pretty much covered all his bases. He does teach German class, done conventional fitness. We have had inmates who've been taking off their blood pressure medicine stuff from all that. He facilitates our those classes. He is our interpreter for Chinese if we have to have one. And since he's been in our library, it was the first one to become ACA certified. You know, outside of that, everything, y'all got everything else.
Thank you very much. Okay, looking today, in support, we don't have anyone. We don't have any opposition to wanting to be here today. However, law enforcement from the pre-PI shows some strong law enforcement opposition. The judge in Lafayette is opposed. The district attorney in Lafayette is opposed. The sheriff in Lafayette is opposed. The chief of police in Lafayette is also opposed. Mr. Liu, you want to make any final statements before we take a vote?
I want to say again, I apologize for everything I have done. And I thank the parole board members taking time to for this hearing. I would like to go back to China if I am granted for parole, and I want to be a productive member in the society. You know, if I'm granted. That's all my statement.
Thank you. All right, the board is now ready to vote. Let's begin with Mr. Tillis, who was assigned the case. Could you please give us your decision?
My vote is to grant.
Right. Ms. Renata.
Mr. Liu, I have some reservation about your sincerity and your remorse for what you did. However, I am impressed with the work you've done while you've been in prison. You've really contributed to your prison community. I would grant to the ICE detainer based on your no other criminal history, and as I said, the work you've done there. So that's my to the detainer.
All right, Mr. Liu. My vote, I see it a little bit different. You had a break. This was a second-degree murder that you got to break down to manslaughter. So you had a big break there. This could have been a life sentence easily. And you've done 20 years off of 40. I believe there's still a little bit time to do. So in my opinion, and my vote is going to be to deny. So with a vote of 2-1, you've been granted parole to an ICE detainer. This concludes our business.
Thank you, Warden Bickham. We appreciate you facilitating. I know you got a lot going on there today.
Oh, man, look, I was wishing, hoping I could stay up here longer.
Well, we can sit here a while.
All right. All
All
right,
right.
thank you.
Thank you, work on. Thank you.
All right.
You can tell what time.
We're signing off with Rayburn now. This concludes our meeting with Rayburn at 9:31.
All right, you know what that means, come back to China. Yep.
You know, after watching this sorry excuse of a parole hearing, you might be shocked to find out that he stabbed her 97 times. 97 times. Can you let that sink in? Let that sink in. This isn't just he lost his, he got 97. That's talking about a rage that is so intense. I mean, any one of us now couldn't even take a knife and stab it into a watermelon 97 times. We would tire out. And 20 years later, when describing how it happens, he says that she made me upset. She wouldn't shut up. She wouldn't shut up. You can't make this up. I hope I don't sound like I'm just a whiner and a complainer. I read the comments and I get it. I listen. And maybe, it's like, but what it is that the insanity of what we're listening to. He also, little thing, what my point is that this is a dangerous man. This is a dangerous man who doesn't understand, well, who even 20 years later at his parole hearing could even come up with the words, she just didn't shut up. Can you imagine saying that from someone who you stabbed 97 times, but she just wouldn't shut up? It's just, he's a danger. Oh, well, he doesn't have write-ups in Angola. He's a blah, blah, blah. I don't know. Well, I guess he doesn't. I guess he can't exactly be the bully in Angola. Wherever he spent his time. I will go over some of the court transcripts. Even, there are even some manipulative or sneaky things that he said. How do you think it made the family feel? Well, I killed their only daughter. Well, he killed their only child. This is China. Even, when I first heard the only daughter, the first thing I thought was, wow. So they had 2 children. That they're unique. So I had to go and what Richard sent a lot of different articles. Only child. And then he has the audacity in these appeals, we'll read through it, where they're actually saying, how can you lock him up for so long? He is also an only child. He's supposed to go home and take care of his parents. And when I'm reading that, I just couldn't believe it. How can you be so dumb? And then, he hides her body. They don't find her body until a week later. He runs off to try to escape to Canada. They catch him in Buffalo, New York. He tells them he's just sightseeing. And then they go on in the different articles to say he doesn't understand. He banged his head when he was 13. He has impulse control problems. And it's like, okay. And then I guess the insult to injury is just how pathetic the hearing was. You have, let's just get down to it. I mean, I've only seen the preacher still a handful of times, not a lot, but I haven't seen where that was just a bad interview. Mr. Knotts at least tried to get into there. At least Danny, who I'm still getting to know, I don't know him much yet so far. I think I like what I see. At least he denied. And, and then it's Louisiana, so that they have an agenda, they have an initiative. They want to set, if they can get an inmate out of the state of Louisiana, they often do it because it still comes down to their paperwork, right? And their costs, their P&L spreadsheets, so to speak. Sending someone out of the country, they like to do too. Now, is China going to be waiting for him at the other end? I talked about it with Richard, and it's going to come down to politics. If their family made enough noise, if they're still around, if they're upset, they want to, because I told you I'll want to open up his chest and pull his heart out as well and squeeze it while he watches, frankly. Someone does that to your only child. And that would still be too good for someone like that, because she just wouldn't shut up. It's just crazy. So here's his appeal. He meant to serve a 40-year sentence. I don't know what act he falls under to get through this one. I really don't. Why But the following facts were recited on his guilty plea. The defendant and the victim, Miss Ting Shen, were in a room at a conference center located in the University of Louisiana, Lafayette, Paris. The defendant and the victim got into an argument. The defendant sent the victim numerous times, intentionally causing her death. The defendant subsequently left the room to City Lafayette. And it's funny how they write numerous times. But they get into how many times he actually did. It's just ridiculous that they put that even in here. But I guess the ones writing the appeal might be on his team. At the defendant's sentencing, the testimony indicated the defendant was studying for his PhD at the University of Louisiana. Police were called to a room registering the defendant when people began to complain. Registered to the defendant when people began to complain about a smell. When the door was opened, the victim was found beneath a pile of clothes, towels, and bedspreads, her body beginning to decompose. An autopsy of the victim revealed she sustained 97 stab wounds or cuts, 20 of which were defense wounds on her arm. The victim was also stabbed post-mortem, and her throat was severely cut. The victim's entire body had lacerations. Okay? In the assignment of error, the defendant argues that the maximum sentence of 40 years imposed by trial court was excessive in light of his background and his complete lack of criminal record. So, I find this case particularly tragic because the two individuals involved in this case, the victim and the defendant, both had very promising futures. Both apparently came from close families. They were both looked upon by their families as a sort of being their legacy, their future, and just makes it extreme tragedy. Yes, that's exactly what they were. They were both only child. And it is particularly troublesome, I think, because I am still not sure that the defendant in this case realizes exactly the extent of what happened. And that may be a cultural difference. The idea that anyone would write and that may be a cultural difference is beyond me. Like, how about he's just a sociopath? How about that? Why is that not a possibility? This has nothing to do with culture. This has nothing to do with it. Okay? But in reading what he wrote and in hearing some of his comments, I am just not sure he realizes how abhorrent the behavior in this society, in this country. Again, to me, it's weird that they're bringing up that differences. I think it's very clear that he's a sociopath. And we saw it today. She just wouldn't shut up. So, and yet I understand the letters that were written by his friends. I understand that he is a good side as well, too. As I said, it's very tragic because apparently too many people he had was a comfort and a friend. But certainly his behavior that resulted in the death of the victim in this case was anything but appropriate or kind or at all in keeping with some of his friends described him. So let me say I have studied the pre-sentence report. I have studied all of the letters that have been written. I have listened carefully to Dr. Harper's testimony, and I've considered all of those matters as well as the nature of this case, and I've considered this in the light of Article 8 and blah, blah, and I do not make the following findings of facts of the sentence. Although he has no prior felony convictions and appears that he led a law-abiding life before he committed this offense, you do stand convicted of killing another human being. I know that your conduct had a permanent and devastating effect upon the victim's family, as reflected in the correspondence that I received from them. I understand you are from the same country as the victim. You're familiar with his customs, and you are aware that the victim in this case was an only child and would be expected to care for her parents as they age. Your conduct during the commission of this offense, can you imagine? You put all of your sweat, your blood, your tears into your baby. You send them to America to get the best education they possibly can. And this monster ends it because she wouldn't shut up. Your conduct during the commission of this offense manifested deliberately cruelty to the victim, 97 stab wounds and 12 defensive wounds, and somebody trying to ward off an attack certainly manifested deliberate cruelty. You used the violence in committing your offense. You committed the offense with a dangerous weapon, and the court finds a lesser sentence would depreciate the seriousness of the offense. And while I accept Dr. Harper's testimony, I don't find any of his testimony provides to be basis which would excuse your conduct. This is where the insanity comes in. In his motion to reconsider sentence, the defendant maintained that the trial court failed to properly consider all of his mitigating evidence, including, but not limited to, his young age of 25. That's young, sure, okay. At the time of the offense, and his good works and services prior to the crime. The defendant also averred that his conduct was the result of circumstances unlikely to reoccur, because it would never possibly happen that another woman wouldn't just shut up. And that his imprisonment for 40 years would cause excessive hardship for his family. Can you imagine that? Can you imagine having the audacity to write that in your appeal? Lastly, the defendant maintained that a trial court failed to adequate weight to his acceptance of responsibility and to his lack of impulse control and judgment related to his previous closed head injury. On appeal, the defendant states that he is a native of China who came to the United States to study at the University of Louisiana for his PhD. He stresses that he has no prior felony record and was a law-abiding young man prior to this offense. The defendant also describes the head injury he suffered prior to the offense, which allegedly caused mental problems, including headaches, loss of energy, difficulty speaking, and altered sense of smell. Guys, loss of energy, right? Too bad he didn't lose that energy when he was stabbing her 97 times. It's funny because that's like the best they can come up with. He banged his head when he was like 12 years old. There was no cuts, no bleeding, but that totally messed him up. Now he just becomes a crazy guy with a knife. So insane. Not only that, but I would argue that that's just more proof that you should stay locked up. It makes you more dangerous. Anyways, they're just going through the injury and da-da-da-da-da. Like, please. I don't, but, they gave the plea deal. I read some other articles, but we won't go through. Richard gave a lot of info on this case. Maybe I'll put the links in the description. But he only served 20 years, and that's just crazy. Now they're sending him out of the country. Well, that actually, I don't know how ICE is going to handle this, what China's going to do, but the bottom line is that that is not enough time for taking life, nor it's also just the where is the justice, and then where is this protecting other people? This is obviously a very dangerous person who does not understand what he did, who seems to me to lack the ability to empathize. And it's just crazy. You wouldn't believe it if you didn't see it. And that's part of why we do this, because a lot of our system is messed up and broken. And with that, I'll let you go.
All right, good morning. Committee on Parole is reconvening. We're at Tinsall Parish. Today is Thursday, May 23rd, 2024. It's 11:28 a.m. My name is Cheryl Renatza, serving as chairman of today's parole panel. My colleagues on the panel this morning, thank you for that, sir, Mr. Viator. Is Mr. Danny Vior to my left, Mr. Chucky Tillis to my right. Would the staff member in the room in Tinsall please introduce yourself for the record?
Noah Vior.
You got anybody in the room with you there? We want the officer to introduce herself.
Yes, ma'am, Captain Williamson.
All right, Captain Williamson, thank you so much for accommodating us today. And so now, Mr. Viator, you introduce yourself. Tell us your name and DOC number.
Noah Vior, 766498.
All right, Mr. Viator. I'm going to read some information into the record, ask you to verify that information, then we'll have a parole interview with you. Your case has been assigned to me, so I'll take the lead on that. When we're done, after we have finished all of our questions, we'll ask Captain Williamson if there's any input from the facility. Before we vote, you'll be allowed to make a statement. Ready? All right. Mr. Noah Vior, you're classified as a first felony offender. You're currently serving a 7-year sentence. You were sentenced in Vermilion Parish on February 7, 2022 for indecent behavior with a juvenile. You do have a parole eligibility date, which was May 23rd, 2023. You're not eligible to earn good time, so your full term date is May 20th, 2028. Does that information sound correct?
Yes, ma'am.
All right, sir. So tell us, Mr. Viator, how old are you?
I am 23.
And how long have you been in jail on this 7-year sentence?
This will make exactly 3 years today.
Today, 3 years today. So you received, let's see, you received was it a 10-year sentence and it was all but 3 were suspended, then you got to do 3 years probation?
Yes, ma'am.
So whenever you're done with us, you still got to do 3 years probation with the court. And so at the time of this offense, you were 21?
I was 20.
20. And the victim was how old?
12. I think. I don't really know.
Your relationship to the victim was stepsister?
Yes, ma'am.
So I'm showing that she was 11 and that this abuse started around age 8 or 9.
That's
Is
what
that-
she said.
That's what she said?
Yes, ma'am.
What do you say?
It didn't. I had a witness say the other day. I don't know exactly everything on her detail part because I didn't get to read all that stuff. But I know the day she accused me of the stuff, which was in December of, I think it was like 20 or something like that. I had a witness with me, but I was trying to get my court-appointed lawyer to help me out, and she wouldn't do anything with me. But
You're saying there was a witness to the event?
yes, ma'am. My brother was present whenever she tried to say I did things to her. And whenever I told my court-appointed lawyer that she didn't want to use that information, she said it wasn't valid. He wasn't a valid witness.
So you're saying this never happened?
Ma'am?
You're saying that the abuse never happened?
No, ma'am. I just did. I was fresh to the system. I've never been in trouble with the law, and I didn't know how things went. And I was scared because I was facing 25 to life originally, and I didn't have no defense whatsoever. And I just did. I tried to file for a new lawyer, but it didn't work out. I did a lawyer complaint form, whatever that is, but nothing was ever heard from it again. I even tried to get her to do a bond reduction. She told me it wasn't a good idea, that they could raise my bond. And I told her my bond was already $200,000. So there's no way I could afford it anyway. So if they raise my bond, it's like telling me no. But
I went ahead and took the time because originally, whenever I did it, I asked my lawyer on the 7 years, I was like, is that flat time and can I get good time? She originally told me, no, it wasn't flat time and I could get good time on it. And the judge told me the same thing. Whenever a lot of people tell me that if I try to bring it back to trial or nothing, they could do worse or something like that. So I just left it as it is.
Yeah, well, time calculation is a very complicated matter that the DOC does the time calculation. So, I can understand how the lawyer may have thought you received good time, but you don't. So let's talk about, you've been in jail almost 3 years today. What have you been able to do, take advantage of since you've been in jail?
I left Caldwell to go to BDCC, which I took the little sex offender treatment program, which consists of the risk management, the anger management, and the empathy and awareness. And then I was able to take thinking for a change over there as well. And then I got shipped here, and I haven't been able to get in any other courses.
So
I
you
was previously in
Thinking for Change?
Caldwell.
I'm sorry.
Ma'am?
You completed the Thinking for Change?
Yes, ma'am.
Because I didn't see that in the record. I do saw where my note says you claim to have completed Thinking for Change, but the record doesn't indicate that you actually completed it. So that's good that you did, that you were able to do it.
I do have the certification with me here.
Okay, good. Maybe they can fax it over to us.
Once
I don't that
it's
anymore.
currently in my property, but once I get it, I can
Yeah,
try
just
to.
give it to them and maybe they'll send it over to us. That would be helpful. Can include in the record. So what is your relationship with Miley
That's my
Now.
stepsister.
now?
Huh?
Now, what is the relationship
I
now?
don't even really talk to her at all.
What about the rest of your family?
I talk to my dad, my mom, and three of my brothers.
So your Miley's mother is still married to your father?
Yes, ma'am.
Whenever you're released, you're gonna have some challenges before you.
Yes, ma'am. I'm aware of that.
So tell me, what if you were released early, what would be your transition plan? Where would you live?
My mom has a place for me out on the outskirts of Lake Charles. I have a job lined up for me as soon as I get home, working for a company called Nash Fence out of Grand Lake. I have transportation. My mom has a truck waiting for me. Also, while I was down, I joined Ashland College, and I was told that I could do that when I get home as well, which I plan on doing that. All I gotta do is go to the facility, and they'll give me a computer with all the books. And I was taking my bachelor's in business association and business management.
Good for you. That's good.
And
Why do you think you have opposition to early release? There was no comment made by the sheriff's office or the chief of police. Well, the chief of police is unopposed. The district attorney's office is opposed to an early release. Why do you think we ought to consider you for early release?
Well, previously, I've never been in trouble with the law before. And I just want a second chance at life. I believe in second chances, and I just want to be able to prove to society that I can do better with my life and change it for the good. I want to get out there to be able to help my mom. She's struggling right now. She is currently trying to get disability. She has no income. She lost her dad, which was my grandpa, and my grandma. I think currently my grandma's staying with my mom. I'm not too sure. I haven't been able to talk to him in a little minute, but I plan on calling him today. I'm just really wanting to get out there to support them. That's my main concern, really.
Did your mother know you were coming up for parole today?
Yes, ma'am.
Did she work?
she can't work. She's disabled. She has a slip disc and bulging disc in her back.
All right, Captain, any questions?
Yeah, in the beginning of the investigation, you denied that you committed the crime to the police. And then you later pled guilty to it.
Yes, sir.
Did you commit the crime?
No, sir. They
So
have
you-
no evidence on me whatsoever. I just couldn't, I don't trust in people enough to be able to put my life in the hands of a jury, especially with my surroundings. As soon as I came to jail, everybody, they just heard the charge and instantly said I was guilty. And it just scared me to be able to try to take that charge, especially since I'm new to the system. I don't know how it all goes and all that.
So you're telling me you never touched her, fondled her, or had sex with her? Nothing.
I did when I was younger, but the rape charge thing, I never did that. But I never touched her like, I touched her leg. That's in the record. When I was like, I think I was like 16 or 15. But once I moved out, I had no real contact with her at all.
All the questions I had.
I see that, in the record, it states this happened between she was 8 and 11. And she said that you, entered her, and you're saying you didn't do that?
No, sir.
Okay. Were you dating anybody at the time? This
Yes,
was,
sir.
you had a girlfriend?
Yes, sir.
And, why do you think she come up with this? What's going on?
I really believe it was like an attention thing because at school, I tried to bring this up to my lawyer as well. I found out later on during my sentencing, she actually had some issues at school. She had it might actually be in the school system records, I don't know. But she had some issues with a friend of hers. They liked the same boy. And the boy liked Miley's friends instead of her. And she went to like her friends and all that and told everybody that the girl was having relations with other dudes and all that, just so the dude wouldn't like her. And she had to move schools from Gaydon to Lake Arthur because of that reason. I'm not trying to make her sound like a bad person because sometimes she's not like that, but she's always been given whatever she wants. And when my dad stopped working, that all changed. She wasn't able to, she used to go to Disney on Ice and Disneyland. She used to be the center of attention all the time, get whatever she wants. And like I said, whenever my dad stopped working, all that changed. She started getting punished and things of that nature.
I see. You said your brother was there with you. How old is your brother? The one that you said could verify
At the time or now?
at the time?
At the time, I do believe he was like 15 or 14.
He didn't have any problems with her, did he?
Problems with what?
His sister, his stepsister.
I don't know. I never really got into that with him.
Okay. I have no questions.
All right, Captain Williamson, is there anything you can add for Mr. Vior?
And no, ma'am, it's nothing that I can add, cause I don't really see him.
Okay.
Listen, I'm going in the dorm counting. And it's 80 something in there and they just, good morning, Captain Williamson, and I'm good morning and I'm out. So he's not one that I interact with. He's not one that I have problems with. If there's a problem, yes, I would know him. If he's a trustee, I would know him.
Right, so it's a good thing in his favor that you don't know him, because
Right.
otherwise he'd be a troublemaker.
He'll be a troublemaker, right?
Okay. All right, anything you want to say to us, Mr. Viator, before we vote?
I just ask y'all to be kind and merciful and allow me a second chance. That's all I can really hope for.
And You're at Tensa. Are there any program opportunities there for you?
I don't think there are there, Cap?
No, it's not.
No, I'm currently, if this goes wrong, I want to try to get the OCC. They have like mechanical courses, electrical courses, welding courses, and they also have the Ashland College over there. I want to be able to attend those courses if with my remainder time, but it's
So you're
somewhat
looking
difficult to get myself.
Vocational classes.
Ma'am?
You're looking for some vocational skills training and to be
Yes,
able
ma'am.
to Ashland.
Yes, ma'am.
OCC is Washington.
Yes, ma'am.
All right. I think panel's prepared to vote, and I'll be voting first, Mr. Viator. The information in the record is kind of overwhelming. I understand what you're saying. But there has been opposition expressed. I'm pleased that you were able to take the sex offender treatment. You pled guilty. If you didn't do anything, pleading guilty was not the thing to do. My vote today is going to be to deny you parole based on the age of the victim and the opposition that's been expressed. Mr. Byron?
I would vote exactly the same way with the same reasons.
Mr. Tillis?
I agree with you, Mr. Noor. You probably need to get some more classes and training, and I think that's a good idea. And I hope that you do that, so when you do get out, you can put your life back together. My vote's to deny also.
Mr. Viator, today your parole's been denied. So I'll make note that you're requesting to be have the opportunity for vocational skills training and to continue the Ashland courses. You will have the opportunity to reapply for another parole hearing. We're going to send you some information on how and when you can do that. Okay.
Yes, ma'am.
Good luck to you, sir. Captain Williamson, that concludes our business at Tensaw Parish. We're going to sign off at 11:45. Thanks for helping us.
Thank you.
Can you even imagine that he's only been locked up for 1 year, 5/23/2023 at the time of this hearing? He gets a hearing after 1 year. I just, or maybe that was when his conviction was. So he's had some time in jail, but it's just crazy. It's crazy. He's doing this to his stepsister for how many years before he's caught? From the age of like 7 to 9, and a judge gives this little tiny slap on the wrist sentence. It just makes no sense. And then he comes up here, of course, and denies any culpability. He says, well, my brother is a witness. You see, he was just following me. He was my Siamese twin brother, right? We were sewn together. Only they removed us. They removed us so I can serve this sentence. But that's why he was always with me every second of the day. It's just insane. Yeah, of course his attorney didn't, just like it's so sick. And then how does it work anyways? I mean, I hope, dear God, that if he gets out, he's not allowed to go back to his house. Probably not, I'd assume. But it's there's no other information on it. Per 3-year period, a 3-year period. She was 8 years old when it started. And his full term date is 8/20/2028. That's all he got. This tiny little sentence. And believe what was crazy. I mean, tell me it was a mistake, but Mr. Natsa actually said the chief of police is unopposed. I could not believe I heard those words. I mean, it's a blanket statement that they are opposed. So for this case, he makes the exception that he's not opposed. Tell me that's a mistake. DA doesn't show up. No one's there for the victim. No one cares. You can tell, like, it boggles our mind. It does. Anyone with some common sense Did they mention his risk score? I don't think they did. Otherwise, it would be a low risk score. I didn't do anything. I just didn't understand the system, so I took a plea deal. Mr. Knotts is like, I think I understand, but if you didn't do it, don't plead. It's like someone needs to just yell at him. Someone needs to really give it to him. But it's just do more programs. You'll learn how to better manipulate us in the future. Right now, you're obviously clueless. Next parole hearing, you'll come in and you'll just say the right thing, so you'll get out. Protecting our children. That's what you get. And what else more can I say? With that, I'll let you go.
So Billy Crane, you're classified as a first felony offender. You're currently serving a 12-year sentence. You were sentenced May 12th, 2014. I have two separate dockets for forcible rape. You received a 12-year sentence on each of those, running concurrently because your total sentence is 12 years. Your parole eligibility date was set at September 3rd, 2023. You're not eligible to earn good time, and your full term date is June 24, 2025. Does all that sound correct?
Yes, ma'am.
All right. Would you answer Mr. Byra, please?
Yes, ma'am. Mr. Crane, looking at these two crimes, although they were separate and apart, they have a lot of similarities. And I was just wondering, what were you thinking at the time of these crimes? What was the problem? Something not right, huh?
Yes, sir. I was young and wild. I mean, I did what I did, and I mean, I feel very sorry for doing it. I mean, I messed up. I mean, and I hate to say it like this, being down this long has really taught me that you can't make mistakes like that. I mean, it's bad, and the way that people looks at you and stuff like that. I mean, there's no way that I should have done that.
Were you on drugs or anything?
Yes, sir. I drank a lot, and I did some X pills and stuff back in my younger days.
At the time of these offenses?
The last one, yes, sir, I was.
You think you got a problem?
Sir, I had a problem, and when I did that sex offender course for that year and a half, it really showed me that the way to what's the word I'm looking for? The way to help myself when it comes down to if I get an urge or whatever to not do it again.
Tell me a little something why we're trying to convince the board why we should vote to release you with those kind of crimes can pass.
Yes, sir.
And why you think we should be considering to release you, because some pretty serious stuff you did.
Yes, sir. Well, I really helped myself, like I said, in these last 11 years. As you know, as far as a sex offender, you can't earn good time. So most of the places you go are not going to put you in any class anyway. But every place that I've been, I tried my hardest to get in anything that helps. Like I said, I did the sex offender program. I finished it. I did it anger management. I did a little substance abuse. I've done, I got my high set. I got a better education just so I can better myself. So if I do go home or when I go home, I'll be able to be a better person in society. I mean, I've done everything that I've done to help myself, to help the people around me.
If you could talk to those victims, what would you tell them? That they all still suffering with issues. What would you tell them today?
I would tell them I'm sorry. I mean, I messed up, and I know that I can't take back what I done, but I do what I could to help them go forward. I mean, I know that I hurt them, but the way that, it made me feel after I look back at the situation, I'm like, that ain't something that a person should do to anybody. I mean, I got kids, and I know I wouldn't want, my daughter to go through what they went through.
Gotcha. All right, that's all the questions I have. I just need to note, though, that there's very strong law enforcement opposition for this. The judge is opposed, the DA is opposed, the sheriff's opposed, and one of the victims is strongly opposed. So, that's all the questions I have. We can,
Mr. Crane, so you acknowledge your guilt?
Yes, ma'am.
In your application for parole, you include a copy of your post-conviction relief.
Yes, ma'am.
What's the basis for what relief? What is the basis for that?
Well, I tried to, cause the lawyer that I had, I told him some questions and told him and asked him about, things that I was going through, and like the evidence that was showing that I was trying to get less time, because I don't know the word, man, it's hard to understand, and I was telling them that, man, what's the word I'm looking for, that I could have got less time, because when he told me about it, when I first got locked up, like three and a half months later, he said, Billy, they only offering you like 5 or 6 years. And I'm like, well, do you think I should take it? And he's like, no, if they only offer you that less of a time, sit in there a little while, maybe we can get down to 3 or 4, and I'm like, okay, I can deal with that. And then the farther it progressed, the time went up. And I'm like, well, you told me to wait. And I was like, well, and then he came back, like, I think I did 11 and a half months before I finally took the 12 years and stuff like that. And I was like, well, you told me that they was 6 years. Is it still on the table? He's like, it was never 6 years on the table. I said, what? You told me.
I understand. So you're trying to cut your time. What do you think is a fair amount of time for what you did?
To be honest with you, the 12 years, and this is not everybody that's been in prison for whatever, but like I said, these last 6 years that I've been down, as far as like, rehabilitating myself and finding the help from these programs that I took, has really helped me to get it. And I understood if I was only down for 3 or 4 years, I wouldn't have been the man I am now because of what I've done to help myself.
Glad to hear you say that. I don't have any other questions. Phil, any questions?
How long you served since you've been there? How many years have you been in?
10 years and 11 months.
Years, 11 months. And you knew the last victim was a juvenile?
Yes, sir.
Yeah.
She was a friend to my cousin, which was, I think he was 16 or 17, and I think she was 15 or something like that.
And you feel like you've learned your lesson?
Yes, sir. I have really put myself in a position to where I could help myself, because I'm sorry, sir, but the man on the right said that this is some serious stuff, and if I got a problem, you need help, you can't go back in society. And for me being that, there's no way that when I go home that I would ever put myself in a predicament like, because like I said, I haven't seen my kids in 11 years. I mean, and it hurt me because they going back and like, where's daddy at? Where's daddy at? And I don't see how you could put yourself in that position unless you do have a problem. I mean, and I'm not putting myself back in that position to even think about it again.
Are you married?
No, sir. I was very close, but I didn't get married.
Okay. No questions.
Okay. Let me ask Deputy Marchand, is there anything you can tell us about Mr. Crane?
He's only been here with us since March of this year, with no incidents or anything here, but we really don't have anything to comment. He hasn't been here long enough to really get to know him yet.
Okay, well, thank you. All right, Mr. Crane, we're gonna hear from the DA's office at this time. Mr. Wilson?
Should I approach the podium?
Yes, please, so we can put the camera on you. Thank you.
And just to introduce myself a little more formally, my name is Butch Wilson. I'm the Assistant District Attorney with the 22nd Judicial District Court, which encompasses Haiming Luo parishes. Thank you for allowing us to be here today. Just to get something out of the way to begin with, this man received an incredibly lenient sentence. based on what he did to that 14-year-old girl, he has gotten his break from the system. He has gotten more than a break. In my opinion, he should have been life out of that charge. That should have been an aggravated rape. But he's got his break. It is what it is. He's here today. This is a sexual predator. This is sexually predatory behavior. There is a record of it. If you read this packet, he dragged that 14-year-old girl off into the woods. We can never, ever, ever trust him. He is going to be on the street at some point. We know that. His full term date is in another year or so. So he's going to be out there. And he is going to be exactly the sort of person that we have to be ultra aware of because of this behavior. We don't trust him. And we never, ever will because of his past. I appreciate the fact that he says that he feels bad for the victims. I'm not here to doubt what he feels. I'm just saying that, you know, he referred to his sex offender plans. He was talking about urges, which begs the question of whether or not he still has them. Whether he needs this training in case those urges come up again. When he's back out on the street, we're going to have to deal with those urges again. And we think that in all fairness, considering the facts of these crimes and the sentence he received, he should have to serve every single minute of it. Every minute of it. This post-conviction hearing he was talking about where he brought up with Kevin Linder. I've known Kevin a long time. I find it hard to believe that he told me he was going to get 3 years out of this. Because there is no way that the district attorney's office would have stood mute if that sentence would ever have been floated on the record. Those post-conviction allegations went back before Judge Maddow, and they were heard. There were full-blown evidentiary hearings, and they were denied. He rejected them. So that, once again, is a moot point. We strongly urge you to read the statement of the victim who submitted one. I'm sure y'all are all aware of the facts of this case. This is not the sort of person that we can write to. I don't know, the board of the district. I spoke specifically with Mr. Sims about this case 2 days ago. And he urged me to be here and strongly oppose any sort of parole consideration for this particular. If y'all have any questions for me, I'm happy to answer.
Any questions?
No.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you
Appreciate
so
you being
much.
here. Thank you for being here. All right, Mr. Crane, is there a statement you'd like to make to the panel before we vote?
No, ma'am. I mean, I've done everything I could to help myself. And like I said, I've done almost 11 years off of the 12. I've got everything that I've done and everything that I was told to do. I mean, that's all I can do about it.
All right, sir. I think we are prepared to vote, Mr. Barrow.
So, Mr. Crane, I gotta tell you, I agree with the district attorney. Your sentence was light to begin with. Although I do need to commend you. I was looking at your record of the stuff you did do in jail, 22 classes. Good work on that. Good work on trying to rehabilitate yourself. However, I vote to deny based on the seriousness of your crime and that the 2 separate victims, one of them was a juvenile, the strong law enforcement opposition, and considering the length of the sentence that you got, I've seen people get 50 years more and more for this kind of charge. So I'm gonna have to vote to deny you, bro.
Mr. Tillins.
My vote is to deny.
All right, Mr. Crane, I too want to commend you on the work. I noticed you even got some college credits under your belt, so that's good. And all that's going to serve you well whenever you are released. I do concur with my colleagues based on the opposition we heard from this morning and the proximity of your full term date. My vote today is to deny you parole. Wish you well. Good luck, sir. That concludes our business in Washington. We're going to sign off at 9:40.
You know, and I saved this for last for a reason. I saved it for last for a reason because when you look at all of these hearings, can you now see how the critical importance of having a DA come up and just lay it down? You know, if the DA doesn't show up, do you think that maybe they probably approve? I mean, we just saw a bunch of hearings. All these hearings took place in a 24-hour period. We see a man who assaults underage employees in a bathroom and gets a slap on the wrist, full on, right? We see a man who does it to his stepsister for 3 years from the age of 8 to 11, gets a slap on the wrist. We see another man who stabs his 98 times and gets out after 20 years early. And then here, finally, a DA shows up and says it how it is, says what we're all thinking. He dragged a 14-year-old into the woods. We'll never, ever, ever be able to trust him. He's getting out anyways, and now we in society are going to have to deal with this. And normally they would grant in a second. If he hadn't come up, I believe, and said that, they would have granted in a second. This was the article that we could find, 2013. It's written, deputies say a 24-year-old confessed to sexually assaulting a woman in a remote area in Paris. The course of investigation, deputies also linked him to 2011 sexual assault case. These are 2 cases that he's caught for. He is now booked with forcible sexual assault in both attacks. The most recent attack came to light on June 20th when the victim sought medical attention in Riverside Medical Center. She told detectives that she was sexually assaulted and left in the rural area. She had to walk 20 minutes to the nearest residence to seek help. After he claims he was innocent, by the way, he requested a polygraph examination. And I'm sure most of you know how I feel about polygraphs. I think it's a great tool. After the polygraph was administered, they say he confessed to both sexual assaults. He confessed. It's a great tool because that's the whole point. It's a gimmick. It's a tool, in my opinion, to get people to confess. To get, people are like, oh yeah, oh man, I'm busted now because of the polygraph. And but he's getting out in just a short amount of time, and you can't make this stuff up because. And I wonder, I'm sure I would guess this DA who's speaking now wasn't involved, didn't have a say in the matter when that deal was handed out. But you have a confession. They didn't want to put the 14-year-old girl on the stand. They can claim those things. We know from now that that's not always true. They just don't want to go to trial for these type of cases. But yeah, he's getting it anyways. And like the DA said so elegantly, now we in the streets are going to have to suffer the wrath, the consequences of this. He should have gotten life, and he should have. He dragged a little girl into the woods, but he's getting out next year. But this is why I showed it. Thank you, Richard, for all the info. And with that, now before we go, I'd like to say something about Memorial Day. Not me. I'm going to bring in a special guest, my grandfather. But I do want to give credit to Sir Richard, who sent an email and said, man, dude, today is Memorial Day. Maybe you can have a 10-second moment of silence. So we will end the stream with that. And we'll also say a little bit about, we'll hear from my grandfather. And Richard, who has quite a storied career in the Navy, I hope that one day he'll share a story or two with us because he's got them. But for now, let's jump in. You were thinking about telling the one when you were a kid and you went to the parades.
Oh yeah. Well, my uncle was a World War I veteran, and he died from Spanish flu in 1919 and never came back from overseas. And it would really hit me. So every Memorial Day when they had the parade, as a kid, I was 7, 8 years old, 36, 37, 1936, 37. They would march, and all the veterans from World War I would be marching there, and I'd look at these old men, and I'd come to think about it today. Well, the war ended in 1918, it's 1936, so we're talking 18 years previous, and it seemed to me like ages ago. Oh my goodness gracious, oh my goodness, how long ago that must have been, 18 years ago, and here they are marching in a parade. And now, I'm looking back at World War II, which happened to end in 1945. We're talking over almost 80 years ago, not 12 or 18, but 80 years ago, and it seems less time between now in World War II than it did when I was a kid in 1936 to World War I. You see what I'm saying?
I do.
Yeah, that shows you how the passage of time goes. So it's kind of significant in terms of how you look at time as you age. And the older you get, the faster time goes by. It seems that Sunday comes around every other day instead of 7 days after a week. So that was my experience. And of course, Memorial Day also meant the opening of our cottage at the beach every summer. And it was a great time to get together with all the people you haven't seen since last summer. And it's just nice to get the boat getting ready to go out, the cookouts, all the spirits. People were very happy to see the summer come, start enjoying the relaxing time of the year. So Memorial Day is the forefront of the relaxing season. June, July, and August, part of September, until Labor Day. And Labor Day means getting back to labor, except for me, because I'm retired. So that's my story on this Memorial Day, 2024.
It's pretty remarkable how things also come full circle with the Spanish flu. And
Yeah, it sure is. And by the way, I was named after my uncle. So I'm very proud to carry his name, and also having served in the armed forces as well.
we should have a moment of silence in remembrance of your uncle, your namesake, and of all the fallen soldiers that make this country great and possible.
Roger that.
Roger that. I love you, grandfather.
I love you too, grandson. And I'm proud of you. Keep up the good work.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
You're gonna-
94 degrees in the car.
94. You got to get the air condition on.
My air conditioning's running loud and clear.
You're going to Paula now?
Yeah, I'm on my way. I just left the store and I'm on my way. I don't know if we're going to go there or not. It is hot.
Oh, to the concert.
Concert.
Yeah. What is
Yeah, I
it?
usually like it. It's a John Philip Sousa concert, all for Memorial Day. They play all the patriotic songs, God Bless America, America the Beautiful, Star Spangled Banner, all the songs from the Armed Forces, Army, Navy, Air Force, Marines, and Coast Guard. So it's really a very patriotic time, but it's too damn hot to enjoy it.
I hear you. It's there's a point where we do things to do it, but if it's not enjoyable, why do it?
When the temperature reaches my age, it's the time to stay indoors.
Oh, ain't that the truth? Oh man. Oh, that's a good one.
And it's getting close to it.
Oof. Oh, but age is just a number, sir.
Yes, indeed. Tell my bones that.
Your bones might disagree, but your spirit concurs.
You got it.
You're going to go to the gym this week again 3 times?
Oh, yeah. Yes, I am.
You did what, 3 miles on a bike last time, right?
Yeah, that was a record for me. Yeah.
It's amazing.
Yeah, I felt pretty good.
And why wouldn't you? And you felt good after, too. I mean, you sounded a little tired, but that's understandable.
No, I did okay. I
Yeah.
did okay. Yeah.
I'd
Did
be
okay.
tired too.
No, you run 6 miles and you don't even get out of breath.
Oh.
Well, here I am. So have a great Memorial Day and talk to you tomorrow.
Talk to you tomorrow. Over and out.
Over and out.
That was a funny one. When the temperature starts to get my age, you shouldn't go out. He is something. He is special. I think, yeah. He also gave the story. We didn't, plan it out, and he's driving. He's multitasking. I'm sure there are 100 stories he could have given. He gave the one that came to him first, and we can end this with another 10-second moment of silence. But I have I'll just leave it at that.